9. Beverly Baker. Chiropractor Armand Choukadrian thought he had found the perfect home for his growing family in Pasadena, California. That all changed one day in October 2022, while his mother-in-law was at the house babysitting the couple's infant daughter. Out of nowhere, an axe-wielding neighbor approached the property and began smashing windows. Choukadrian's mother-in-law rushed to grab the baby, who was sleeping next to a window in her bassinet, and hid inside a closet. The culprit, later identified as 65-year-old Beverly Baker, left and came back several times, smashing more windows upon each return to the house. Doorbell footage showed Baker swinging the axe at a street-facing window while Choukadrian's mother-in-law could be heard screaming in terror from inside. The victim was so terrified, it took relatives 10 minutes to coax her out of hiding. As she walked away from the home, Baker could be heard saying, "Questions, anyone? I'll be back. Get out." Authorities charged her with felony vandalism and speculated that she was suffering from a mental breakdown. Choukadrian told the Daily Mail that his family had no connection to Baker and that they were so traumatized they were considering moving. He said that if his mother-in-law hadn't moved the baby away from the window as quickly as she did, the outcome of the situation could have been much worse. The most recent updates on the case state that the court is in doubt about Baker's competency to stand trial. 8. Kenneth Montgomery. In a case that's equal parts disturbing and bizarre, police in Mesa, Arizona received a call one morning in 2022 from a man who said that he and his mother had been shot by a total stranger in the parking lot of a Hobby Lobby store. The caller, 27-year-old Albert Leota, and his 61-year-old mother, Antoinette, were parked next to each other in separate cars when the shooting occurred. By the time officers arrived, the gunman had fled. Antoinette was pronounced dead at the scene, and Albert was rushed to the hospital with gunshot wounds to his legs. Later that day, officers located the suspect, 65-year-old Kenneth Montgomery, at another location, where he was seen climbing into the bed of a stranger's truck. They then found Montgomery's vehicle and discovered a bloody gun on the dashboard. During questioning, the suspect allegedly admitted to buying ammunition shortly before the shooting, then driving to the Hobby Lobby in search of two vehicles that he believed were involved in prior criminal activity. According to documents, Montgomery confessed to unloading his gun on the victims. 10 shell casings were found at the scene. Montgomery faces a second-degree murder charge and is being held on a $1 million bond while his case proceeds. 7. ANNALEE Owens. It's probably not unusual for Alaska State Troopers to receive calls about suspicious gunfire, but it most likely came as a surprise when they responded to a 911 call one evening in 2022 about an 80-year-old woman shooting at her neighbor in Wasilla. The incident reportedly stemmed from an ongoing property dispute over a tree between ANNALEE Owens and the homeowner who lived next door. Things appear to have reached a boiling point that night, and Owens allegedly fired her gun at the man. Following an investigation, the octogenarian was accused of causing two people to fear serious imminent injury with a dangerous instrument, and causing one physical injury with a dangerous instrument. Owens was taken into custody on 3 counts of third-degree assault and remanded to a pre-trial detention center while awaiting the next steps in her case. While it's unclear whether Owens has a criminal history, she only appears to have made news headlines one other time in recent years, when she complained about a policy change with a local Meals on Wheels program in 2017. Owens, who was 75 years old at the time, told the Frontiersman that the nonprofit had previously left her deliveries at the end of her very long driveway, but was now requiring her to accept the meals in a hand-to-hand exchange. Because she suffered from asthma and wasn't always dressed when the delivery arrived, she liked being able to retrieve the food at her own convenience. During an interview with the news outlet, Owens wondered out loud, "How much farther will people go to drive us off our land?" She made it clear that she enjoyed living on an isolated, remote property and that her homestead was very important to her. All things considered, it's perhaps not so surprising, after all, that a disagreement between the strong-willed senior citizen and her neighbor erupted into gunfire. 6. John W. Merritt. John Merritt was a well-liked small businessman who owned a few paint shops in Harlem and raised his family in a house he built, with plans to pass it on to one of his children. But his life was turned upside down after his daughter married a man that his wife disapproved of. When Merritt was in his early 60s, his daughter and her husband fell on hard times, so he gave his daughter a job in one of his shops. This outraged his wife and his son, who had taken his mother's side in the family drama. Merritt's wife locked him out of the house, so he kicked in the door, and the police arrested him for disturbing the peace. At the time, the house was in Merritt's son's name. His wife convinced the young man to transfer the house into her name, ensuring that she had full control over the property. An expensive divorce came next, costing Merritt thousands of dollars out of pocket along with a continued monthly support payment. He made the payments for years until his business began to fail and he fell behind. After 4 years of non-payment, Merritt's ex-wife had him arrested for abandonment, claiming that he had left her destitute. By then, he was 81 years old. Merritt denied the charge and told the New York Times that his ex-wife was lying about being penniless. He said that she owned 2 properties in Manhattan, and that a previous complaint his ex had made against him was dismissed after her assets were discovered. The octogenarian accused his former wife of having a drinking problem and speculated that she would tell an absurd tale in court about how she had become a pauper and how it was all his fault. Many can probably relate to the story of a bitter, feuding couple who couldn't let their differences go even after they had been broken up for decades. But you may be surprised to learn that the news article describing Merritt's suffering was written in 1900, proving that when it comes to love and war, some things apparently never change. 5. Gladys Virginia Harvey. Shortly after a newly built jail opened up in Dallas County, Iowa, it received its oldest inmate to date. 87-year-old Gladys Virginia Harvey was taken into custody in August 2022 after police responded to a call about 2 women fighting at an apartment complex in the small city of Adel. According to court documents, 58-year-old Sharon Kilgore told officers that she was helping an elderly resident fold her laundry in the building's community room when Harvey entered the room and began screaming at her to shut up. Kilgore reportedly claimed that Harvey held her fist up in a threatening manner and said, "Let's go." Harvey then allegedly walked up to Kilgore, put both hands around the younger woman's neck, and choked her. By the time police arrived, Harvey had left the room. Records state that officers observed a red mark on Kilgore's neck that was consistent with the story that she and the resident who witnessed the incident told to police. Police charged Harvey with assault and took her to the new jail, where she spent the night before being released on her own recognizance. It's probably safe to assume that she'll be the record holder for the facility's oldest inmate for a while, since it's not every day that someone in their late 80s or older gets hauled off to jail. 4. Martha Lewis Menfield. In a shocking case that drew widespread outrage and made national headlines, an 82-year-old Alabama woman named Martha Lewis Menfield was arrested in 2022 for failing to pay a $77 garbage bill. Naturally, the public turned to the police for an explanation about why they took such drastic action against an elderly woman. People were also infuriated because the situation seemed to criminalize someone for being in debt, something that many, if not most, Americans agree is wrong. A city spokesperson said in a Facebook post that the arrest came after several attempts were made to collect on the bill. According to officials, Menfield has a history of problems with code enforcement. When she failed to appear in court for a citation after they left a reminder on her door, a warrant was issued for failure to pay trash. Menfield would later claim that she was unaware of the citation and that her daughter handled her bills. In a statement, Valley City Police Chief Mark Reynolds said that the department had no choice but to act on the warrant. He claimed that the arresting officers treated Menfield respectfully and confirmed that she had been released on bond. Body cam footage that was released several months later showed an officer laughing after Menfield opened her door and expressed shock that she was under arrest. In the video, the officer could be heard telling the senior citizen that he was serious about the warrant and that it wasn't a joke. Menfield asked, "So you're going to handcuff me and take me to jail?" To which the officer responded, "I'm so sorry, but the law's the law, Miss Menfield." He apologetically put her in cuffs and carted her down to booking. According to CBS News, records showed that Menfield had one prior charge for not paying her garbage bill in 2006. It was dismissed upon compliance. In other words, it doesn't sound like she's a habitual offender, and people sympathized with her situation regardless. After word of the arrest spread, a crowdfunding campaign was created to help Menfield with her expenses. By then, she had paid her trash bill, but was struggling to afford home repairs and some medical costs for her ailing vision. The campaign is ongoing and has raised nearly $35,000 so far, showing that Menfield may have landed on the wrong side of the law, but she won in the court of public opinion. 3. William Scott Sims. In 2021, a 73-year-old arms dealer from Texas named William Scott Sims was accused of trying to sell illegally manufactured and unregistered weapons to people he believed were members of a Mexican drug cartel. But the customers were actually undercover agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, posing as drug smugglers who said that they were interested in buying machine guns to smuggle into Mexico and use in wars against rival cartels and law enforcement. During a meeting at an unnamed business in the city of Edinburgh, Sims allegedly showed the undercovers 11 machine guns he built that had no serial numbers or other registration markings. These types of weapons, known as ghost guns, are much more difficult to trace than legally manufactured guns, and they're becoming increasingly easy to make, sell, and obtain, thanks to 3D printers. According to a criminal complaint, Sims agreed to sell the guns for $10,000 each, knowing that they would be illegally exported. After the meeting, he was arrested and held on $30,000 bond. He was later indicted on one count of smuggling goods into the United States and 2 charges of possessing an unregistered firearm. While it's unclear if he was convicted or if the case currently stands, records show that he was released from federal custody in February 2023. 2. An unlikely drug smuggler. Customs and border officials probably aren't surprised by much, but they may have been slightly taken aback when they busted an 81-year-old Danish woman with 5 kilos, 11 pounds of heroin in her luggage at Frederick Chopin Airport in Warsaw, Poland. The incident happened during a layover in 2022 while the woman was traveling from Africa to Canada. Officials reportedly decided to search her luggage after observing what was later described as uneasy behavior and a suspicious travel itinerary. The drugs, which were estimated to be worth around $515,000, were found beneath a false bottom in the senior citizen's suitcase. During questioning, the woman denied any wrongdoing. She claimed that relatives had given her the suitcase, and that as far as she knew, it was filled with gifts for family members in Canada. The elderly suspect was detained for 3 months on a narcotics possession charge. According to the most recent updates on the case, the investigation is ongoing, and the woman could face up to 15 years in prison for the charge. 1. Cheryl Crenshaw. Cheryl Crenshaw typically didn't commit serious crimes, but she committed a lot of them, according to police in South Euclid, Ohio, who revealed in a 2016 Facebook post that they had arrested the 60-year-old for the 61st time. The announcement came after the sticky-fingered sexagenarian allegedly stole from a local Walmart, which was reportedly just the latest on a growing list of arrests for misdemeanor theft. Crenshaw pleaded no contest to the charge and was found guilty. The judge sentenced her to 2 years of probation and ordered her to pay a $1,000 fine. While it's unclear whether she's gotten into any more legal trouble since then, she's managed to avoid making news headlines for any more arrests, suggesting that perhaps she's turned over a new leaf and is now a law-abiding citizen. Thanks for watching. If you had an opportunity to take the rap for an elderly family member who is facing up to a year in jail for a crime that you knew they were guilty of, would you do it? Or would you let them face the consequences for their actions? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.